Welcome to the Security Warehouse video review of the Honeywell Optima Gen4 Compact. It's the smallest panel that Honeywell currently do. So it starts off with the Compact, moving up to the Centers, Center Mini, same case enclosure, obviously with no onboard keyboard. Onto the larger plastic case, the poly version, and then onto the metal version. But anyway, here we have the Optima version. This is the plain case version. They do another packaging version with a pretty cardboard sleeve around it. Obviously, if we open the first part of the case, you see we have the full engineering manual and a user manual. Modern trend, I suppose, is to not include an engineering manual with the actual panel itself, but Honeywell still do on these smaller ranges. And here we have the panel itself. As we can see, it's a small unit. It's an LED based panel, onboard keyboard. This is backlit. We'll power it up in a bit so we can have a look at that. Obviously the cover, see, it is small, so it's ideal as a low-end installation to put in a hallway. It's quite reasonably sized. If we open it up, it has a two-piece cover, which is different from most panels, but allows the circuit board to stay relatively covered once the service hatch is opened. Obviously we have a set of battery leads here. If I just temporarily remove this, we can see that we have a speaker, internal speaker connected to the cover. Most systems have a rear facing speaker. This actually obviously puts it on the front, advantage being slightly increased noise. It's a 32 ohm speaker, but obviously it is a smaller size, it's not as loud as 16 ohm. We have the keyboard itself, which is rubber construction. It does come off. There are you can see the LEDs are actually behind it doing the illumination. Similar setup as the Optimas have had for years from the XM. Obviously the XL started backlit. So we've got a spring tamper switch, which is obviously on the second cover, covering the wiring. On the connection front, we have the mains incoming block. See the transformer, mains block is actually fused. We've got the battery connections, obviously, which were supplied. We'll go into there. We have a battery fuse, a bell and strobe output fuse, the main 12 volt and speaker fuse, and this fuse is for the keypads. If we have a look at the connectors, we've obviously got a set output there. We've got the block of fours, the bell connections, strobe connector, the internal speaker connector. Obviously as standard, this is connected to the 32 ohm. The panel will actually drive up to two 16 ohms in parallel off that. We've got the main 12 volt output connector for powering detectors, any of the 12 volt devices on the system. A global tamper circuit. What is an unusual feature on the bottom end panel is a dedicated PA zone. Obviously most panels these days use a circuit and program it as a PA. Obviously this has the advantage of having a dedicated indicator for the PA circuit, and it doesn't take up a zone from the system. We have our 8 double pole circuits. I've actually linked these out to aid the review. On the left here we have the keypad connectors. The Optima will accept up to 4 keypads, simple set readers, etc., any combination of, but up to 4. It will take obviously LED keypads, but it will importantly take LCD keypads. So all the features that are available on the Optima, on the Centers, with regards to text descriptors, time and date stamping on the log, etc., would be available once we put an LCD keypad on. As you can see, the connections here are missing on the Compact. They're only available on the bigger panels on the Center going up. We've also got our 8 indicators for our zones. We've then got a power LED around the corner here. We've got the attack and tamper LEDs, and then we've got the green daylight to show current armed status. onto tamper switch. What I'll do now is just put this back on, and then we'll power it up and see how it operates. Right, okay then, we're powered up. We currently have obviously the power indicator on. We've got the tamper indicator flashing to show that's what caused the alarm. Obviously I can't reset that at the moment because it's still in fault. As soon as I clear the fault, obviously green light will come back on to show that it's disarmed. I'll now put it to engineers by pressing program with the default engineer code, which is 9999. We can now cause a tamper fault without causing an alarm. Obviously now if we have a look at the unit, we can see that we're quite tight on space. We have excellent cable entries, various cable entries all over the unit. From the back, obviously these are actually cutouts across the top and the side, and obviously most people, you bring the cables in from behind. This is this area here is for the battery. Now you are, due to the constraints of the panel, we are limited to a 2.3 amp hour battery there. So of course that would normally be, would be filled with battery. That would then only leave this space here for cable and connections, etc. Your mains incoming point would be through there into your block, obviously out to your fuse spur. But so you do need to remember we are very tight on space in there. It is quite common that people will take the excess cable up behind the board. Care needs to be taken on that because obviously the back of the board is exposed and you can end up causing a fault. Obviously neatness is the key in this area. If we have a run through the features of the panel, from an ease of use point of view, the Optima is fairly easy to program, very easy to program. Obviously there's not too many options on it. It's the manual that comes with is a generic manual for all of the Ascenta Optima range, so they all operate and program the same. Obviously the LED versions have less of a display option, which can limit the programming and make it hard on the programming because it's not as obvious as it would be with the LCD. Obviously the LCD is plain text. If we go through, we'll go through the manual now. Obviously it details the ranges, the options available with the Optima range, the Optima Ascenta. Obviously we have the Ascenta Gen4 Mini, which is in the same case, but obviously without the keypad and the display. The Optima Compact, which we have here. We then do the metal version, which is a larger case version of the Ascenta. There is also a larger plastic case version, which will take the 7 amp hour battery. There's a lot more room for cabling in it. Obviously there's the two keypads, there's the LED version and the LCD keypad. All of the Optimas and the Ascentas will all take the same keypads, so whether we put an LCD or an LED keypad on it, a mix of that, or a simple set tag reader, obviously that option is available to us. Going through the manual, we obviously have a brief list of its headline features. Obviously it's got 8 zones. For security it says 2 available for programming, dedicated PA input, dedicated tamper, outputs for obviously the external siren and the strobe, 4 user codes, so you've got 2 user codes, an engineer code and a duress code. Now duress code isn't available on the compact, so obviously you've got no output to trigger to signal it. 3 fully programmable part set options, chime option on any circuit, on any security circuit, not on the fires obviously. 250 event memory, or with the LED version only, you can only get to 8 of those. So obviously you cannot display the timestamp with an LED keypad. All the times are programmable. Walk test facilities we'll come on to in a minute because it's an unusual panel. Something new with the Gen4 is something called one-man test. What it allows us to do is when we're walk testing the system, it latches the display so we can see what we've tested when we get back to the display. Obviously it'll take up to 4 keypads on conventional normal 6-core alarm cable, any wiring configuration, star, daisy chain, etc., up to 100 meters. The programming is held in non-volatile memory. It says here there's 5 digital outputs, but obviously that's not on the compact. And obviously the 2.1 amp hour battery. That is the size constraint in there. It talks about the design of the panel, fixing the panel, removing the lid, removing the circuit board. The circuit board does come out quite easily. There's just 2 clips here, which we pull those down, and obviously then the circuit board hinges up. You will need to remove it to install it, and when you put it back, there's obviously 2 locating pins here and here that you need to line up, and then it just sits back in. You wouldn't conventionally be taking the outer higher level lid off, only the wiring access cover. Right, now going back to the manual, obviously we've got a circuit board layout which we've already been through. Talks about the tamper circuit, the fact that what a tamper circuit does, connecting the remote keypads, and example wiring examples, how to fit the keypad. Then got details now to wire the door contacts and PIRs, for example, into the individual circuits, and shows you how to wire a global tamper, seriesing all your tamper devices up. Shows you we can use a fire detector. Obviously, being a normally closed panel, we can use any conventional 12 volt fire detector. Obviously 24 volt ones won't work. Shows you how to series up the PA circuit. Talks about the extension speakers, how to wire that parallel. The external siren, it also shows how to wire 2 external sirens on this panel. Talks about the remote signaling inputs and outputs, which is not relevant on this panel, only on the larger ones. And it shows you the default programming as it comes out from a factory set. Details the mains incoming wiring, testing the system, how to first power up and what it displays, and then obviously enter in programming mode. We have enter in engineer mode, which we've obviously done. It talks about defaulting the panel to factory settings, or just defaulting the user codes, and then we go into actually programming the system. I'll do a couple of examples so that we can see how it actually programs. From a usable point of view, if we have a quick look, we'll do a walk test. We're already in engineers, but for sake of argument, we'll drop it back into day mode. Obviously, if I close the tamper switch, if I drop back, press the reset key, it'll put us back into day mode or disarmed. So the only indication we've got on are the power indicator and the day indicator. If I was to cause a tamper now, into the default user code, which is obviously 0123. That gives us that we've got a tamper event, and the tamper LED is flashing. Now if I clear that tamper, so you won't reset the display until I press the reset key. Okay. If we want to go now doing a walk test, if we go back into program mode, so again it's program 9999, so the attack and the power lights stay on. We will then ignore the tampers. We use 0 to do a walk test from this mode. So we're now in walk test now. Looking at that, I've got a zone 2 light on. It's because my link is loose on circuit 2. If I tighten those up, that will actually stop the tone, which means the circuit is cleared, but the display has not. So we've still got a zone 2 light on. I'll cause a zone 1 alarm as well. And there we go. So again, we'll close the door or reset the device, and I'll quickly do a 3. Okay. So now we can see that all circuits are back to normal, but we've latched zones 1, 2 and 3. So when we get back to the panel after testing our doors, garage door, hallway sensor, etc., we can see that we've tested which zones. If I cause a tamper, obviously the tamper light will come on. Now the tamper, all those lights will stay on even after the event is cleared until I come out of walk test. Okay. Now if we were to go into, we've got obviously various options. We've got the alarm tests, how to test obviously the bell, the strobe, internal sounders, testing the LEDs, testing the output if it was relevant. We actually get into the programming of the system. Now on the Center Optima range, call these choices flags. within the flag is a choice of options, and they're all on or off options. So under flag 1, option group 1, we have a list of choices. We have silent PA. Obviously, do we want the PA to be silent or audible? Obviously, keypad PA. On the remote keypads, we can have an option where pressing 2 keys would actually have the same effect to pressing a PA. Can be useful. Obviously, you can have that enabled or disabled. Engineer reset. Again, unlikely to be used on a panel at this level, but possible. PA user reset, I use the user allowed to reset a PA. Fire user reset, same again, but obviously fire zones. Do we want the external bells to activate with a pulsed 2 second on, 2 second off on a fire zone? Do we want zone 7 or zone 8, which are the only two that can be fire zones, to be programmed as fire? So they don't have to both be fire, it's a choice of is 7 and is 8 a fire circuit. Under flag 2, option group 2 basically, we have single key set. Very useful in the under the old regulations, especially only. It allows to do what's called a quick set or a simple set. Rather than actually entering the code to arm the system, you can just from demo press the set button, which obviously will perform a full set. It is something that was used a lot. You may find it useful. Strobe 1 set. That basically strobe confirm, whatever you want to call it. That allows, when the timer has expired and the system is actually fully set, it will actually fire the strobe output for 5 seconds, so you can see from outside that obviously the alarm is successfully set. And under flag 3, option group 3, we have like software versions and firmware build dates, etc. We then move on to programming the time and date on systems with LCD keypads. Again, setting up zone names, putting the descriptors in. So rather than having zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, we can have front door, hallway, lounge, etc. programmed into the keypads. Obviously programming the timers, the bell time, bell delay, the rearm count. We move on to programming codes, obviously the user codes, engineer codes, etc. Viewing the event log. Obviously on this panel as it stands, we'd only be able to view the last 8 events, and it would show us what they were. We wouldn't know the time frame or the times. Obviously we'd need an LCD keypad to get that information. Then move on to emit allow and double knock. That is double knock is basically where you want to have a circuit has to activate twice within a set time before it causes an alarm condition. And emit allow is, you can actually, obviously all circuits default to be in emit allow. You might decide that certain circuits should not be emitted. Might be a requirement of the client. And we go on to part set programs. This panel defaults to obviously part set 1, which is normally used as full set, as the only one that's programmed out of the box. To enable the other part sets, you need to obviously enable them. They are by default disabled. You enable them by selecting an exit mode. If you have a look at the manual on page 34, it shows that your part set programs 1, 2 and 3, they all have an exit mode. Obviously default is timed for part set 1, part sets 2 and 3 default to being disabled. Doesn't matter how you program any other part of that part set, if you leave it disabled, they will stay disabled. It's a bit of a shame really, because I would have thought if you started adding zones to a part set that it would default to timed, but still, as long as you remember it and catch people out. Talks about adding zones. Which zones do you want to be timed? Obviously you may, in a full set condition, want your front door to be timed, but in a part set condition you may want your front door to be immediate. Again, that's a programmable option. What zones are inhibited during entry time. See what the entry time is, what the exit time is. Exit mode, obviously it details the fact that 0 is disabled, timed. Final door. Yeah, I've got the 3 choices that we have that have any use. We've got timed, which obviously normal timed exit. We have final door, useful for full sets or any sets when you're leaving the building. With a final door set, basically you start setting the system as you leave and close the front door. System obviously knows you've left and completes the set rather than it timing out for another 20-30 seconds after you've left. And then there's silent timed, which is obviously exactly the same as timed. It counts down, but it does it silently. useful for part sets so you don't wake up the rest of the house. And then the engineering manual details, setting the system, unsetting the system, resetting, etc. And then it talks about specifications. Obviously it's 12 volt, talks about available outputs, currents available. The set output is capable of syncing 400 milliamps, but only sourcing 10. It's normally a logic output, you wouldn't really be taking serious current off it. Nothing else really relevant there. You've got the dimensions, and then you've got the event log messages that would be stored in the log on an LCD version. On the back, which is quite useful when you get used to the panel, there's like a quick guide on how to program the menu layout, on how to program it. So obviously without having to refer to the whole thing, you can just grab the back. Moving on to the user manual. Obviously a lot of it covers all ground, but it does cover useful indicator. It talks about the power indicator, what a personal attack is, it has the default codes in there. Talks about how to set the system in detail, how to unset the system, showing both LCD and LED versions, how to part set the system if programmed, how to silence an alarm and reset the system, how to omit a zone, how to quick set the system, talks about that single key setting if it's been enabled, how to enable a circuit on chime. You might get a lot of call outs due to that when a customer turns a circuit on chime. How to change codes, changing codes on user 2. Obviously you may want to delete user 2 code if you're only using the one code. Talks about the duress code. Does mention that the duress code is not available in the Optima Compact, which is this one. Viewing the event log, how to test the bell strobe and internal sounder, how to do a walk test, obviously a customer walk test so they can test that everything's functioning, and how to set up the time and date. Also allows on the back you to the installer to detail what circuits where, how it's actually programmed, and obviously the contact details on the front. Quite obviously a basic manual. Plenty of detail there, but I'm not too sure of the construction of the book for an alarm system, but still the content is there. And that's it. For those that are interested in the wattage taken by the panel, at mains on the 240 side it's actually taking 3.5 watts with nothing connected to it at all. Obviously that will go up as the system is loaded. Wasn't particularly relevant, but in today's climate it is, and a very efficient little panel on that front. To summarise, nice little panel. I think it looks it's ideal for smaller installations where it's going to be fitted in a hallway. Obviously the price point is right in that market. The fact that it takes LCD keypads is a bonus, because obviously it means you can use this as your default panel, and then on the install an LCD keypad in a hallway on the slightly higher spec jobs, and obviously move up to the Ascentas and stuff where you wanted a blank end station or one with more space. I'd try to use this only on the small installations, ideally 3, 4, 5 circuits, because again, only because of the space constraints inside the panel. It is very difficult to keep it tidy, get your battery in there. Obviously you might have some paperwork that you've got to put in there as well, which makes it very difficult. But other than that, for a budget panel, very well made, great plastic, easy to program, easy to use. Does what it says on the tin really.